What's up, everyone? Steven here from TechMaker. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the new virtual machines that Aleph is working on. So this is going to be dependent upon the previous episode that I did just earlier today on Vagrant. So if you haven't watched that, you might want to check that out. Or if you already have Vagrant installed, or if you're running on a Linux machine, maybe you don't need it. But I've had to use that because I'm on a Mac and the Aleph VMs won't work on a Mac, as far as I understand it. And also, I had to actually use a specific virtual machine just to get this working. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it, but just be aware that you may need to go check that out. I'll link down in the description first thing, so you'll be able to go check that out if you get stuck. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm inside of a directory here for where I do my Aleph content. So I'm going to go ahead and just make another directory called VM demo. And then we'll change down into VM demo. And what we need to do in here is initialize a new virtual machine using Vagrant. And we do that with Vagrant init. And we have to specify which box we want to use. So I found actually Hugo, big shout out to Hugo over in the Aleph Telegram, suggested that I use the Debian11 box. So I found this Boxomatic /Debian11. And so we're going to go ahead and use that one. And if we go ahead and open up our code here, when we'll need this throughout a little bit. So our Vagrant file should have Boxomatic Debian11 in here. And if we come back to our terminal, I'm going to go ahead and make this full size. We'll just run Vagrant up. And again, check out the previous episode if any of this is confusing. This shouldn't take too long because I've already used this box on this computer doing some testing. But I'll give it a second, and if it takes a minute, I'll go ahead and pause the video. All right, I'll pause the video and come back. All right, so you see that our box is booted and ready. We can see that here. So what I want to do now is just Vagrant SSH, okay? And this is going to log me into my Debian machine. Okay, cool. So I'm going to tab over to Chrome really quick. You can see all my research here. So Aleph, and I'll link to all this stuff, but this is the VM repository here. And to be honest, I think all of this stuff is about something different. We don't need to do all of this, at least to deploy virtual machines to their network. They have this tutorial, which kind of explains how to... Am I in the right place? No. This is the wrong thing. Sorry. Different research. I want to be on the tutorial. Here we go. So basically, what we're going to do, and I'll link to this. You can read the actual tutorial. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to walk through this because I found a few gotchas when I tried to do this, and hopefully this will actually clear all of that up. And I think there's a lot of developers doing stuff on Mac, so I wanted to go ahead and make sure that this is available on Mac and PC, which the Vagrant stuff definitely helps with. So what we're going to do is just copy these two commands, first of all, to just kind of set up all the various requirements. And actually, I'm going to change over into /Vagrant, and I'm going to make a new directory in here called app, and change down into app for a second. So we talked about this briefly in the Vagrant tutorial, but essentially anything you put inside of /Vagrant, there's basically a link between your VM and your actual computer, so we can actually like put code in this /app and then edit it with our regular text editor. But anyway, it shouldn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and install. I copied Vagrant somehow. I'm going to copy that and run it. And we should install a bunch of dependencies, which shouldn't take a super long time. Cool. And now we're actually going to install some other stuff with pip3, which is a Python utility. And we'll go ahead and run that. I don't know how long this one's going to take. I think I'm going to go ahead and pause the video because I think it takes a minute. So we're going to get this going, and then I'm going to try to explain a little bit of what's happening. This is more of like just kind of working tutorial. There's other explanations, which I should also link to in the description. They kind of go through more about what the Aleph VMs are all about. We may talk about that a little bit in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and exit from the VM. And do we have the code still open? I may have not needed to do that. Yeah, so you can see here in our code that we now have this app directory. So back over in the tutorial, we have this understanding the VMs. Again, just read this stuff. It's pretty straightforward to understand, at least in high level concept. There's a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is copy this fast API thing here. And then we'll go back to the code. We'll create a new file inside of app called main.py. And then we'll just paste this here. And again, this is all Python specific stuff. It's just a hyper simple JSON API. We can actually change this up to say like greetings from TechMaker. Like that. Why am I getting these errors? Greetings is not defined. That's pretty weird. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm just going to assume that these errors are not a problem. I don't know. That may just be like the linter or something freaking out. Yeah, because that would be very weird. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and vagrant SSH again. And excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this above. So essentially what we've done so far is we've installed some tooling, and we have this Uvicorn, which I've not really done anything with before, but I think it's probably just a basic API server or something, like a Sinatra or something for Python. I'm not really that familiar. Or it's a server system, and then the fast API is the JSON thing maybe. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to say Uvicorn run this code, and we're going to specify the app that we created, the main. Basically we're specifying an entry point. And again, this is not my expertise. The point is not to learn Python Uvicorn stuff here, but we're going to have to specify the main file and then the app, and I don't know what -- reload does. And then that is supposedly going to give us a little API endpoint on port 8000 of localhost. Okay, so this is not going to work exactly the first time. So let's go ahead and, before we even get into that, I've got the solution here. So I'm going to copy this because we need to add this to our. Basically what happens, and I'm debating, this shouldn't be a Vagrant tutorial necessarily, but when we run the server, what happens is the server is running on the virtual machine, and we can't access it from our actual computer, our actual local host. So there's a config setting we can do which forwards a port, which says, okay, forward port 8000 on the host to port 8000 on the guest. So essentially it allows us to access it. And so we're going to use that in here. So we'll do vagrant halt really quick just to go ahead and, hold on a sec, I'm in vagrant halt. Well, this will allow us to pick up the change we just made to our vagrant file. Again, if this is confusing, be sure to check out the vagrant video. So we'll do vagrant up, and this will pick up this new change, which has this forwarding feature. And you can see that here, forwarding ports 8000 guests to 8000 host. And we're just waiting for the machine to boot. While that's happening, let me just jump back over. So in the tutorial, the next thing it's telling us to do, well, it's wanting us to run this unicorn thing, but this isn't going to work as is. And the reason is not clear to me, but the solution is to preface it with Python 3-m. So that is what we are going to do. Let me make sure I have the tutorial up still. Sorry for bouncing around. This video took a fair amount of research just to kind of piece a few things together. It is pretty easy to do all this, but it's more setup than I normally have in a lot of videos. So we'll do Vagrant. I just did Vagrant up. We'll do Vagrant SSH. And again, we'll cd into /vagrant/app. And we have a main.py in here already, which we just created on our code editor. So again, this is that linked directory /vagrant. So anything we create in our editor actually gets bridged over. So what we want to do is run this unicorn main app reload. But as I said, we have to say Python 3-m up front. And this should actually start up a server. And if we go to it, it won't actually work, I don't think. Yeah, so what we have to do, and again, this has got to do with Vagrant and how we're essentially connecting those ports. So we have to say host equals 0.0.0.0. And this will actually run it on that 00008000. And this should work because of the way we bridged it. So now we see message greetings from TechMaker. So far, we haven't done anything with Aleph yet. So far, all we've done is we have set up a virtual machine on our computer with Debian 11, and we've installed some dependencies, and we've put together a simple, like dirt simple Python API with this one endpoint. Okay, so nothing crazy yet, right? Nothing too crazy. The next thing we want to do is actually push this to Aleph. And what that's going to do is it's going to deploy this essentially this Python API server to Aleph, which is a decentralized network. And so, and it's going to give us an endpoint where we can call the API. So in a nutshell, it's moving in the direction of like decentralized elastic beanstalk or something like that on AWS. In a nutshell, I mean, I think right now the actual functionality, you could argue, is a little bit more like just like a function as a service thing. I think. I think this is all being expanded and developed as we go. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I wanted to kind of do a little demo, but I think there will be more content on this as we go. I actually want to deploy an app that I've developed onto Aleph soon, which is a React app. So I'm kind of just getting my feet wet here. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get back to the Aleph discussion. So what it's trying to get us to do is say Aleph help, just make sure we actually have Aleph installed, which should have come in, this command line utility should have come in through the stuff we ran earlier. I get this could not import library magic thing, which I've been told is optional. I haven't had any issues so far, but you can see here we have command, pin, post, program, so on and so forth as options. One thing this doesn't make perfectly clear is, I mean, this is, a tutorial. It's pretty nice. But one thing we need to do is change up into the parent directory. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say Aleph program, which is going to push the VM out to the network. And we're going to specify the directory the program lives in and then give it that main app entry point. The one thing I think, I don't know if this is a criticism or just something I'm not understanding or what. I think this is all very Python centric right now, which is cool. I mean, getting the thing functioning is obviously super important. And so that's probably fine, but I'm not really a Python developer. I mean, I've done a fair amount of stuff with pandas back in the day, but never like API development. Anyway, so that's just one thing. I don't understand what this entry point stuff is about, but whatever. So what we need to do is say Aleph program, which is saying we're going to deploy a program to the network. And then we need to say /app because that's what we called our directory. And then we'll say main, which is the Python file, and then app, which is, I'm not sure. I think that probably comes from here. App equals fast API maybe. I don't know if we change this, if we would change what we're writing here. I don't know. I don't know what the naming convention is. Anyway, enough about that. Let's run this. And it's going to prompt us with a few things. I'm just going to hit enter, and boom. So now we have two URLs here. We have one that is aleph.sh/vm/this FDF thing. I believe this is the actual transaction hash of the VM being uploaded, which would be useful later for updating the VM. I haven't been able to get updates to work. That's the one thing I just have not been able to get to work. But I copied this URL to the Explorer, and let's go look here. So you can see, basically this is us uploading this thing. If we look at the raw stored, we can see the item hash. So this is just the hash that was generated on the Aleph network for our VM being uploaded. Okay, so you can look at that. So these two URLs should basically point to the same thing, but this one is more interesting in my opinion because it's basically a root level domain. So you have a subdomain, which is, I think, related to this hash somehow. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it's, I don't know what it is exactly, but you have a subdomain on .aleph.sh, which I'm guessing you could point like a CNAME at or something like that if you wanted to have like a website hosted potentially. We'll try that sometime soon. But when I run this, we get our thing here, message, greetings from TechMaker. So that's it. So this is deployed on the Aleph network. This is, extraordinarily simple. I don't know if that's actually, that might be an oxymoron, extraordinarily simple. Anyway, it's super simple. And that's fine. I just wanted to go through the process of deploying something. I'm going to be experimenting with this a bit more. I think I might try to just render like HTML or something soon. I don't know what's possible, to be totally honest. I don't know what's possible with this. I'm going to read up on it. I just wanted to get a feel today for exactly what the workflow was and how it can work. And I think that makes sense. So now I'm set up to do more experimenting. I think that's going to be it for this episode. I meant for it to be a little bit shorter. We're trying to do these little 10-minute clips, but I think this is cool. I think it's really cool. I think it's still early. I don't know where the development goes from here or what the next steps are, but I'm excited about it. I like the idea of decentralized servers a lot. So anyway, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you next time.